On the way, David Humphreys of Ulster en route to scoring a try. I still come back to that session even now, even at schoolboy level, as an example of what it can mean when you have one of those team runs, says Simon Mason of Ulster's disastrous last session before their European Cup semi-final against the mighty Parisians Stade Francais. It was without doubt the worst team run I've ever been involved in my entire life. We couldn't train at Ravenhill. We were in the school just behind the stadium, and we couldn't pass the ball from one person to the next. We couldn't win a line out. People were nearly in tears. I think that was when the nerves started to give to people. I remember afterwards thinking as long as we compete with them, we'll be alright. I had all this family over from England, all staying in the Welly Park Hotel, and by the time the game was here, there was a part of you thinking as long as we don't get battered, it'll be an alright day. Shockingly, they led by a point at halftime, and just after the restart came a piece of history, largely accidental history. Gathering from the base of a retreating scrum, number 9 Andy Matchett fired a strong flat pass into David Humphreys. The expectation was that the out-half would offer the first serve in a game of kick tennis, fire the ball long in the hope that, at the very best, he'd find a patch of grass and gain an edge in the territory battle. The beauty of Humphreys, of course, was that he didn't always deal in the expected. Instead of looking for distance or the sideline, the out-half chipped delicately forward, finding not just space but space in an area where his side would be able to regather the ball. I didn't really see it, says Harry Williams. I had my head in my hands. I was sat where I could see all the space up the sideline where he should have booted it. What do coaches know, eh? Contrary to popular belief, the move was neither improvised nor perfectly executed. Humphreys' kick fell into the arms of Sheldon Coulter, who, running furiously after taking the catch, suddenly found that there was only Sebastian Byers, and some half of the field, between himself and the try line. David and I were having a conversation before the scrum, he says. The original plan was just to take the pass and put the ball as deep into the stand as it would go. But we were stood there, and the more we talked it through, the more we just thought, listen, let's play it and see what happens. He was supposed to kick it, catch it, pass it to me and I'd be away. Turned out to be the opposite, as when the chip went up I thought I had the best chance of taking it. Lucky enough it worked out. Coulter worked what had developed into the 2-on-1 expertly, drawing the French full-back and giving the ball back to Humphreys in the clear. As Humphreys disappeared into the distance, the only man giving realistic chase was flanker Christophe Moni. When the mismatched loose forward dropped his hands and gave up the chase, Ravenhill erupted. The television gantry, attached to the far stand, shook with the force of the celebrations. The 52% of Northern Ireland's television-watching public who were glued to the game on screen saw Humphreys dive across the whitewash as if the pictures were being tossed in the washing machine. From the out-half coming onto the ball, just 7 seconds had elapsed before he was diving to dot down, arguably the most memorable handful of clock ticks the stadium had witnessed since Ireland won the Grand Slam there in 1948. It was the most memorable try that I ever scored, says Humphreys. All I had to do was run, but when you think about it in the context of that game, in the context of the competition, that was the first time that people really started to think about Ravenhill as this tough place to go and play. The crowd was electric. Of all the games I played across 20-odd years of rugby, that day will always be the highlight. They were the best team in Europe and we outplayed them. Stade would come roaring back as in the quarter-final against Toulouse. The final minutes were spent wondering if this was going to be another of Ulster's valiant defeats. The most memorable of journeys seemed to be running out of steam with the finishing line in sight. Once more, though, this Ulster team proved to be of a different stock as the only score in the final throws came off the tee from Mason. It was a central penalty, but one from just inside the opposition half that still required every ounce of his expertise. When the final whistle sounded, the Liverpudlian, who had long since gained honorary Ulsterman status, was corralled for a TV interview. As the microphone was thrust towards him, fans hopped over the hoardings and streamed past. With the 17 men who had bested the most fancied team in Europe joined by thousands of supporters, some old, some new, Harry Williams ambled down onto the sod. A crumpled Stade Francais flag with a broken pole lay discarded on the turf. A nice souvenir of the biggest day of his coaching career, he thought. Sadly, in a packed changing room, even First Minister David Trimble was there congratulating everyone on their seismic achievement, including one slightly bemused local newspaper reporter. The memento disappeared, never to be seen again. When the players eventually left the stadium, making their way back to the Wellington Park, the scoreboard by the memorial clock still read Ulster 33-27 Stade Francais. It stayed that way for more than a month. Nobody was yet ready or willing to destroy any shred of evidence that confirmed what had just happened. The Last Amateurs, the incredible story of Ulster Rugby's 1999 European champions, is released on October 12 by Blackstaff Press. European Cup semi-final, January 11th, Ravenhill Ulster, S. Mason, S. Coulter, J. Cunningham, J. Bell, A. Park, D. Humphreys, Capt. A match at J. Fitzpatrick, A. Clark, R. Irwin, G. Leslie, 54, M. Blair, G. Longwell, S. McKinty, T. McWhirter, D. Topping, 33, Award. Stade Francais, S. Byers, A. Gomes, R. Dorth, C. Midden, T. Lombard, D. Dominguez, Capt. C. Lassuck, S. Martinet, S. Simon, 50, L. Pedrosa, B. Moscato, 50, P. de Villiers, H. Chaffardin, D. George, C. Money, C. Gillet, R. Poole Jones, M. Lee Evermont, 50. Scorers, Ulster, tries McKinty, Humphreys, conversion Mason, penalties Mason 5, drop goals Mason, Humphreys. Stade Francais, tries Gillet 2, Lee Evermont, conversions Dominguez 3, penalties Dominguez 2. Referee, J. Fleming, Scotland. Ulster 33 Stade Francais 27 Belfast Telegraph.